Hello folks, this is Sullla once again. What we're going to be looking at here are the patch notes for the most recent patch, and yes, I know it's been out for a little while now. Just did not have a whole lot of time to put this together. Fortunately, this is a smaller patch than some of the other ones that we've seen. This is the 3.11 patch. I don't know what else to call it. There's not too much in this patch. It's relatively minor. Riot is not making a whole lot of changes right now because the World Championships are coming up. In fact, you won't see me playing League as much because for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be having the Season 3 World Championships, and instead of using my free time to play League, I'll probably be using my free time to watch the professional teams as they compete in the World Championships. But anyway, let's look what we have here. There's not too much. This is a relatively minor patch, so hopefully we can get through this relatively quickly. Okay, champions, Draven. Basically, they are buffing Draven's passive. Draven was really popular. He was used a lot in competitive play. Then they changed his passive so that instead of dealing bonus damage, he got extra gold on kills. And basically, they're changing it so he gets more gold now to make because his passive was quite weak after they changed it. Alright, anyway, so let's look at the changes here. His passive is League of Draven. Great name, even if it's not that great of a passive. Now grants base 50 gold when you kill an enemy champion, up from 0. So he automatically gets more gold when he kills a champ, 50 per kill. That's, it's not game breaking, but it helps. Now consumes all adoration stacks on kill to reward him with gold. Previously only consumed half, so you get more gold on a kill. Gold per adoration stack consumed reduced, though, for this very reason, reduced to 2 from 3. And visual and sounds play on every Draven kill instead of only playing on kills that consume a large number of stacks. So basically, long and short, Draven gets more gold now when he gets a kill from his passive. Pretty simple, not too much to say there. A little bit more gold. Not really going to change how anybody feels about Draven. I would encourage people not to play Draven unless they're very comfortable with AD mechanics. He is one of the most difficult ADs to play from a mechanics standpoint because you have to catch the axes. If you're trying to learn champions, he's not a good one to learn. Play somebody like Caitlyn or Ashe who has very simple AD mechanics, not Draven. You kind of need to be very good at positioning to play him effectively. Okay, Fiora. Fiora is an underpowered top laner. Her ult has had many problems with it, all sorts of problems, so they are doing some basically bug fixes slash quality of life changes to help her out with her ult. This is her ult, Blade Waltz. Will now choose untargetable and invisible targets if necessary to continue the Blade Waltz. If she needs to jump to such a target to continue, she will do so, though the ability will not deal damage to untargetable or invisible units. And if the target is revealed, then she'll deal damage as normal. Basically, there are all kinds of problems with Fiora's ult. Fiora's ult is basically a scaled-up version of Master Yi's Alpha Strike. It's very similar in terms of how it functioned. But she had all kinds of problems in the past where if she tried to use her ult on someone, all you had to do was just hit Zanya's Hourglass and it would instantly cancel her ult, because if she tried to jump to someone who had used Zanya's, it would just cancel her ult. Other stuff, other untargetable stuff would break it as well. That's just the best example I can think of. So they are trying to help that, but Fiora is still a very weak top laner. She deals very high raw damage, but she has no crowd control and her ult is very easily interrupted. And it's kind of chancy because you can only pick the first target it hits. After that, you don't control it at all. So she's not really in a very good place. She will likely be reworked at some point because she just, it never really worked for her. Anyway, moving on, Galio. They are giving Galio very minor buffs here. Galio is another underpowered sort of AP slash tank champion. They're reducing the cooldown on his ultimate, Idol of Duran, so 150, 135, 120, from 170, 150, 130. And by the way, his ult had a very long cooldown at rank 1. That's because Galio was actually, for those who remember back when he came out in Season 1, he was actually a very popular competitive pick. But anyway, they're reducing the cooldown on his ultimate, and they're lowering the mana cost on the ult. It is a flat 100 down from 100, 150, 200. Again, nothing too big, but little minor buffs to Galio. I don't think this is going to do very much for him, but Galio players out there will be happy. Okay, Mordekaiser, Iron Man, this is his shield amount. Now it displays in segments, like health segments. That's just a graphical thing, but nice to know. Singed, bug fix with Fling, where it was dealing more damage than tooltip indicated. Okay, must have caught something there. Thresh, this is another very minor nerf to Thresh. Thresh has been nerfed quite a bit. Death Sentence at the initial, if the target cleanses the spell or blocks it with the spell shield, the chain will shatter and you can't cast the second part of Death Sentence, which is where Initially, when Thresh throws out his Q, he hooks the person. He then has the option to dash towards them. This means that if they break it with Cleanse or a Spell Shield, he can no longer jump to them. Again, it's very minor, but it's a minor nerf nonetheless. And Thresh has, I mean, how many times has he been nerfed since he came out? A lot. I think that he is still a solid pick, but I don't think that he's really overpowered anymore because he's been nerfed so many times. Udyr, another graphical thing. Phoenix stance buff now displays a timer for the next Phoenix Breath attack. That's, again, a nice little quality of life interface thing. Doesn't really change that much. Zac getting more nerfs. Zac's chunk drops are now more contestable by opponents. Zac is much like Thresh. He was released in a stupidly overpowered state and has been steadily getting nerfed. Basically what they're doing is making it, as it says, the chunks, anytime he uses a skill, the little passive chunk falls off Zac, adjusting it so that they're more contestable by enemies. What this means is when Zac's little chunks fly off, if he touches them, he gets healed for a percentage amount. If he, what is it? Now, if an enemy steps on it, then, he doesn't reabsorb the chunk. So they're basically making it easier for enemies to, well, stop that from happening. So, okay. Enemy champion within 1,000 range of Zac, his chunks will spawn in the contestable zone, whatever that means, between him and his opponent. I guess, as it says, that's not a change. It's just listed for clarification. Increase the range at which champions cause these chunks to be contestable to 1,000, up from 700. Slightly increase the distance away. Chunks are now credited to whoever's closest to them in the event that both Zac and an enemy champion is present, rather than automatically going to Zac. Reduce chunk invulnerability time to 0.25 seconds from 0.75. Chunk invulnerability now applies both to Zac and enemies. Previously only applied to enemies. Zac now has to wait before he can absorb them. Zac now has increased chunk pickup range and bypasses the chunk invulnerability delay timer during Let's Bounce. Okay, whatever. Well, basically what this means is it's harder for Zac to pick up his little blobs, and it's easier for enemies to step on them and stop him from doing so. So that's pretty much what it adds up to. Again, this is not really going to change how anyone feels about Zac. He's still very popular competitively. He is probably still going to get more nerfs because he is just that strong. When he came out, he was being played as a jungler. Then they nerfed his elastic slingshot, his E. That is the skill that jungle Zac is maxed first. After that, everyone's like, well, okay. Well, if you're going to nerf his E, we'll just play him in lane. And everybody switched to playing him in top lane. And they just relied on his Q and his W instead. So they have been getting nerfed, and Zac is still really strong. So this is not going to be enough to get people to stop playing Zac, even though every single one of his skills has been nerfed, and his passive has been... Has his passive been nerfed? Yeah, because this is his passive, Cell Division. And his ultimate's been nerfed, but he's still quite strong. Anyway, that's it for champions, but there are some other things in here as well. Ginsu's Rageblade fixed a bug where visual effects included increased movement speed visual. Okay, not much to say there. A whole bunch of map-specific changes for Crystal Scar and Twisted Treeline. So for Dominion and for Three's play on Twisted Treeline. It's nice that while Riot is not changing very much on Summoner's Rift because of the World Championships going on, that they are taking the time to do balance changes on the other maps. That's quite nice. I'm glad to see that. Sanguine Blade has a recipe change here. I don't know, don't really have too much to say here. It looks like they've changed the recipe from having a BF sword to having a pickaxe. Don't really know too much of what that means because I'm not really used to this item. Champion-specific nerfs. Nidalee and Teemo, the traps and the mushrooms were too strong on maps that don't have ward, so they're nerfing the duration. Bushwhack traps, let's see, the shred duration reduced in half. Trap duration reduced to 2 minutes from 4. Similar thing for Teemo. A little bit silly that on Dominion and on Twisted Treeline, that his traps lasted for 10 minutes. Now they're down to 3. That's a logical change. Although my understanding is the pro Threes players say Teemo is not actually that strong, but I know he's quite popular on Twisted Treeline for that reason. Anyway, the Fong changes are for Dominion only. For Crystal Scar, Kassadin has long been laughably overpowered on Dominion. He got a nerf in an earlier patch, maybe 2 or 3 before this, but he's getting another one. They nerfed his Rift Walk. Now they're nerfing this silence duration as well, so that the silence doesn't last as long, so Kassadin is hopefully not as ludicrously overpowered on Dominion. Similar thing for Kha'Zix, his isolation mechanic way too accessible on Dominion, so they're nerfing that. Nerfing the bonus there. Lulu's, apparently Lulu's ultimate wild growth, a little too good on Dominion, so they're nerfing the cooldown, increasing the cooldown. Yeah, 80 seconds feels like it would be a little too low on Dominion. Wukong, similar thing. Wukong is actually very good on Dominion, because he's really good at, he excels at team fighting, and there's a lot of team fighting on Dominion, so they're nerfing his passive, nerfing the cooldown on his ultimate, and Yorick is another very strong solo laner in Dominion, so they are nerfing the range on his Omen of Famine and reducing the cooldown to a flat 8 instead of scaling down to 6 seconds. By the way, on Dominion, because you gain levels super fast, he would have hit 6 seconds extremely quickly. You also start at level 3, I believe, on Dominion, if I remember that correctly. Okay, other interface stuff. They have added an undo button in the item shop. Very nice. If you accidentally bought the wrong item, you don't have to sell it back and lose gold. You can immediately undo that, and you will get the gold back. Why this wasn't in the game 3 years ago, I don't know, but it's good to have it now. People have been asking for this since about 2010, and now finally it is in the game. Certain items can't be undone, like Home Guard. Okay, looks like you can't undo the boot enchantment, but everything else, it looks like it works. So that's very nice. HUD, the interface display, mousing over a champion's passive will show the range. Soraka's MR, Magic Resist Aura, is a good example of that, so you'll see that. And the new Teamfight UI for spectator mode. I have yet to test this out. I have not been playing enough League to have a chance to test this, but while spectating, press A to toggle the Teamfight UI. It's a minimalist mode that focuses on removing most of the non-important information. The main thing is you can see health bars for each team sort of aggregated together, and it shows that much better. So in the chaotic team fights, hopefully it shows, will make things a little bit more clear. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I expect that they are going to debut this in the World Championships in the round robin stage upcoming this weekend. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, but I have not had a chance to test this as yet. I'm going to have to play around with this in game, but excuse me, I have not had a chance to play very much League in this past week. And in spectator mode, automatically display Dragon and Baron timers. It's like, hey, great, thanks. This, again, would have been nice to have this about a year ago or 2 years ago, but beggars can't be choosers. And finally, Dragon and Baron timers are in the spectator mode itself. So no longer does Riot have to have somebody sitting there hitting a button when they're doing the LCS to put the Dragon and Baron spawn timers, which, by the way, if you watch the LCS very closely, they get the timers wrong sometimes. I don't know if people have noticed that, but they actually have had incorrect timers sometimes. And that's because someone is manually putting it in. But now, hopefully, it is just automatically in spectator mode, so that's nice. Loading screen reward borders. There was a whole flurry of controversy where people didn't like what Riot was doing, where they were going to have the loading screen borders for all queues displayed. Like if you got Platinum in Twisted True Line, it was going to show Platinum for solo queue, but this is going to be reverted in the next patch, so people were really upset about that. Here's my take on that. If people really want to cheat the system and get Diamond and join some team on, threes or something and cheat their way, whatever. If people, if people want to cheat to get some accomplishment they didn't actually deserve, I don't really care, but apparently enough other people do care that they are going to set it so that each queue has its own loading screen borders. So each queue will have its own separate borders on the load screen. And I'm fine with that too. So I have no real problem with that. But didn't really care if they did it the other way either. Alright, general changes. This is mostly bug fixed. Fixed an instance of bugs showing champions in the wrong place on the minimap when coming out of Fog of War. Apparently this is still happening. I've heard that this bug has not been completely fixed yet, but hopefully they did some of it. Minimum time any game needs to last to be eligible for IP XP rewards has been increased to 7 minutes, so people spamming those bot games for IP and XP rewards can't win in 5 minutes. I personally think that if people really want to spam games for IP rewards, that you should just let them. I mean, if you're Riot, they're still playing your game, so I don't really see why that's a big deal, but apparently they want to make it harder to spam those games. Cancelled auto attacks will no longer fire a damageless missile at the target. That's good, I suppose. I didn't really see that too much. Minions will disappear from the map sooner after their death. This is a graphical thing that they're trying to clean up the map faster, hopefully to make lower spec computers run faster. Cursors will be set to the center of their window by default, preventing the camera from panning to the far right or left or right corners of the map at game start. That's a nice fix. That has happened. If you've played for a long time, I'm sure you've seen this, that when you immediately jump into Summoner's Rift, the game just, like, the camera cuts way to one side of the map for some reason. It's minor, but I'm glad that they went ahead and fixed that. Cursors will also be set to the center of their window for a short period of time after a player switches full screen focus from Alt-Tab. That's useful for people who juggle windows while playing. I don't do that, but some people do. Remove the default key binding for show hide summoner names. Previously Shift K. This function can still be found in the key bindings menu if you want to use this. Okay. Not a big deal there. I'm not sure why you would want to hide the summoner names. I guess if you want everything to be anonymous. Reduce the amount of time you can spend AFK from being kicked out of the game. That's listed down here. AFK detection reduced to 3 minutes from 8, and the game now kicks you at 5 minutes, previously 12. So you can't sit AFK. That's fine with me. People shouldn't be sitting AFK, period. Tower health is now updated even if you've never had the tower out of the fog of war. That's a nice thing. Towers oftentimes would show incorrect health if they were in the fog of war. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but I have seen this before, so that's very nice. Champions tab has been updated with a new layout. I'll have to see this. I actually have not seen this in-game yet. Allow you to see more champions at once. That makes sense because there are more champions in the game than there used to be. Primary role selector has been changed in the upper right. Okay, minor thing there. Friends list. Parts of the friends list view have been rewritten in order to increase stability and performance. Fixed a bug that caused the friends list to be corrupted. That sounds nice. Friend notes are now visible in friends tooltips without having to hover over them. Apparently you can actually go into the client and you can code HTML, and people are putting weird stuff in their friend notes using HTML, which is kind of neat that some people are doing that. I've actually seen some people on Reddit showing that. And finally, a minimum number of human players must now participate in a custom game to receive IP and XP rewards. So no, you cannot 1v1 a bot and get IP or XP. You must have 5 players minimum for Summoner's Rift, Crystal Scar, Howling Abyss, and 3 players minimum for Twisted Tree Line. And they added a notification. Again, I think that's a little silly. If people want to sit there, play the game by themselves against bots, I don't see why that's a problem. But Riot is discouraging that. The rewards in terms of IP and XP are very minimal as it is for doing that. So I say if people want to do that, let them. But apparently Riot says no. Overall, a minor patch, a modest patch. Not much going on here. Not too much to say. Probably the biggest change in this patch is the Draven passive and these very modest buffs to Galio. That's probably the biggest thing, and I guess Zack's chunks are a little harder to pick up, but these are very minor changes. There's very little going on here, unless you play Dominion or you play on Twisted Tree Line, and I'm sorry I can't really speak to those because I don't know enough. Anyway, in any case, as I said, it's a busy time for me. That's why there's not as much content going up on the YouTube channel. I'm sorry for that, but I do have to work, and I do have a lot going on right now. I will try to keep things updated as I can, but, you know, it's a YouTube channel. I do it for fun, so it does take second place. Anyway, until next time, hope everybody has a great week. See you guys later. Until next time, take care.